Hey guys, back again, this time with the final build episode on the i8. Now, last time I finished off all the detail painting from the kit instructions. So this time I'm going to apply the decals and see which details will need to be added by me. With all the decals on, there were still a lot of details needed to be added by me, so I took out a toothpick and some silver paints and spotted some of the buttons which I thought needed to be silver instead of black, just to make it look a bit more lively and not as dead black as it used to be. With most of the details touched up on, I decided to start assembly. All the plastic surfaces were glued together with Plastruct, that is this glue. Basically you just remove the paint from the areas you are going to glue to on both sides, attach the pieces together and just tip the glue on. It will seep between the parts and bond it permanently. Now, it's important to note that this glue cannot be used on clear parts and it will damage the paint, so be careful where you apply it to and keep your mind in the game and not just randomly apply it to everything. With all those parts assembled, I glued in the parts that should not be glued in according to the instructions, but I glue them in anyway, because if I don't glue them, the wheels will be able to roll, and I do not want my wheels to be able to roll, as that has the risk of rolling off of my display shelves. pretty much all the chassis components glued together, it was time to start detailing the interior a bit further by adding a couple of knobs here and there with some black, and then doing the assembly on that as well. With the general interior together, I just touch upon these small details on the belt buckles, clamp things, I don't even know what these are called, and then I glued in the headliner. With the dashboard glued to the main body of the car, I could prop the interior in. With the interior in, there were just a couple of small parts like the headlight buckets that needed to be glued in before the chassis could be glued on. I decided to let the glue in the interior and on the body parts sit for a while before attaching the chassis to it, and moved on to gluing the glass into the doors. I did this with 2-part epoxy, as this is a bit stronger than the regular glue you would use for clear parts, because the door frames were still a bit bent and needed to be formed to the glass itself, and I wanted to use a stronger glue for that, just to keep it in shape a bit better than it would have been if I just used the weaker clear glue I usually use from Revell. With the epoxy setting up on the doors, I moved on to applying some more body panels and some of the lights to the rear area of the body, and then just giving it a shot at putting the chassis with the body. It was a bit of a hassle and a push and pull on some of the areas, but overall it popped in a lot easier than I initially thought it would, as usually this is quite a fight with most of the Revell kits. But once the inner fenders were popped in and the over fenders were popped over, it just snapped together really well without much of a problem. The clear parts on the side were just glued in with some Revell contact clear. These do not really need to be glued in that strongly, so this glue would be good enough. The door panels were assembled and then glued onto the doors themselves. Just like the side glass, the front windshield was glued in with some Revell contact clear, as this did also not need to be glued in really strong. Even though I took a lot of care at the beginning of the build, straightening up the doors and making them fit correctly, they turned out to fit like. So I just glued them in with a drop of 2-part epoxy, and that held up really nice. With the final body panels mounted, it was time to add the wheels and call this one finished. Well, okay, maybe I should just put the Plymouth wheels on, because they do look a hell of a lot better. And that's all for this episode. In the meantime, check out my online hobby shop. Of course, go over to Facebook and check us out over there to keep updated. Questions or suggestions, shoot us an email or post a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys next time.